show you guys my new top 5 meta ranked loadouts to use in Black Ops 6 MP ranked play as of the Season 5 Reloaded update. Now, in case you're curious, there were some really nice buffs and nerfs to certain weapons within VO6 MP, however, none of them applied to the ranked play guns, which is kind of funny to see. However, I'm sure you guys are curious as to the most updated loadouts for Black Ops 6 MP ranked play, because with Season 5 Reloaded, you can earn amazing camos by going up to the ranks, as I kind of showed in my initial Season 5 ranked loadouts video. Especially that top 250 camo, with the shark and all the animation on it, that's pretty something to die for. So if you guys are excited to see the top 5 loadouts and be able to play ranked play to the highest level, then make sure you drop a like in the video, subscribe, and turn on those noties. I typically don't upload ranked play, but a lot of you guys really enjoy the ranked loadouts. But if I see a lot more support for ranked play gameplays, then that'll definitely push me further into being a little bit more into the ranked play side of things. But I do upload nukes on pubs and have fun in the game, so hope you guys vibe around with that. But I'm sure you guys have had enough of my blabbering, so let's go ahead and start things off with the pro ranked AR that we use in Black Ops 6 MP ranked play, and that's going to be the AIMS-85. It's very accurate, has a nice kind of kill, and it's definitely worth it. Let's check it out. So for an optic, I really recommend the AccuSpot Reflex. It's an optic that most people are comfortable with, but if you want to use something else, I can also suggest the Berlin Reflex or even the Kepler Microflex. There's a lot of different optics here, but a lot of the pros use the AccuSpot Reflex. Muzzle-wise, we're going to go ahead and go with the ported compensator just because it really helps that initial accuracy. And I think since the guns melt really quickly in this game and usually in very low number engagements, you don't need to be shooting all the time. Those first shots are what counts, and if you're the most accurate with those shots, and you're able to hit your shot and your target, then you're able to melt them as fast as possible. Compensator is a nice one, but I think the ported is just going to make you more accurate. Barrel-wise, I really recommend the reinforced barrel because it not only helps with damage range, allowing you to melt faster at farther ranges, but also bullet velocity, so you're able to connect those bullets at farther ranges with ease. On the barrel-wise, we got the vertical foregrip to help us maximize our horizontal recoil control on this gun, so this gun has 0 recoil at all. And our rear grip here is going to be the ergonomic grip to give us extra omni-movement boost, as well as extra ADS speed to make the gun even more snappy. Now, if you're somebody that doesn't use the movement like crazy like me, then you can just use the quick draw grip, maximum ADS speed, but I do like the ergonomic personally because it really helps with omni movement. And these are the 5 attachments that really allows the AIMS-85 to shine here. If you wanted to have a gunfighter class, you put on the light stock for a little more movement, and the fire model recoil spring for even more recoil control, or if you want a bullet velocity, the NATO rounds are nice too. I think I would probably go with recoil control though. But with just the 5 attachments that we started off with here, the AIMS-85, easy to use, super accurate with that ported compensator. It's not even funny how accurate this gun is. It's legit a laser beam. You're just not going to be missing shots with the AIMS-85 with this build. Before we move over to the other 4 guns that are available in ranked play and their meta class setups, let's talk about the general loadout here. The secondary that I use is always the Strider 22 with these 3 attachments right here. Kepler Microflex, Fast Mag 2 with quick draw grip. This is the way I like to rock. We got the tactical concussion, we put the Semtex for ground control, and it's good to upgrade a trophy system to get the objective and kind of block up grenades and stuff. And the perks that I use are Flag Jacket, Fast Hands, Double Time, and the 4 perk being Ninja because we're running the Walk Harder perk breed. But if you're not running perk breed and you're running Gunfighter, then you can make that decision as well and add additional attachments to your guns. Up to you how you want to rock it. That's just what I use in pretty much every ranked loadout you guys can see. So now moving on to the pro-approved SMG that most people are rocking within ranked play. That's going to be the Jackal PDW. Has really great accuracy, and it just has the best range and overall versatility within the ranked play meta. Just rock the class. Barrel-wise, we're going to use the reinforced barrel, gives you bullet velocity and damage range, so the gun can melt even faster at farther ranges. On the barrel-wise, we're going to give this gun the range of foregrip for not only a horizontal recoil control, but also sprinting movement speed. You can move from objective to objective, or important point to important point, or be an anchor faster, whatever you need. The movement is just really nice in ranked play for SMGs. Rear grip, once again, is going to be the ergonomic grip. It's just my preferred, but if you're somebody that doesn't use movement, for whatever reason, it's a quick draw grip. Stock here that I like is a balance stock, but I can also recommend the no stock or the infiltrator stock if you wanted more straight speed. And the fire mod that I got here is the recoil springs to give this gun even more recoil control. I mean, it's the only choice there, so there wasn't much to go off there. And you don't really need a gunfighter build here. You don't need an optic, so these 5 attachments are the only ones allowed on the Jackal PDW. As you can see, you got a lot of movement and also a lot of accuracy for something like the Jackal PDW to make sure it has the super fast time to kill for when you need it to be. And you can even get going to the other pro meta AR, and that's with the GPR 91. Now, it has a slightly slower time to kill than the AIMS 85, but it's also more accurate. And if you're able to hit headshots with the GPR, then it ends up being a lot more advantageous than the AIMS 85. So it's up to you how you want to rock the gun. Let's go ahead and check it out. Once again, optic-wise, it's up to your choice, but I got the active spot reflex here, but you're free to use the captain microflex or whatever else. Muzzle here, quarter composite is the way to go, just very easily. Barrel, once again, we got that reinforced barrel. It's pretty much gonna be the same class like the AIMS. However, we're gonna have the range of foregrip instead of the vertical foregrip, because the gun is already super accurate, but it also has mobility, way more mobility than the AIMS 85. So it kind of acts like a SMG AR hybrid. So just adding on to that mobility will make this gun kind of a flex roll. And the rear grip here is the ergonomic grip. And if you're running gunfighter, stock you can use the light stock or the infiltrator stock. And the fire mod can be honestly either one. I would say probably over pressure rounds, but the gun is already super accurate with these 5 attachments, as you guys can see here. We're able to move very, very quickly. The gun is deadly, deadly accurate. And if you're able to hit headshots with this gun, AIMS 85 users are gonna be afraid of you. So, either the GPR or the AIMS 85, definitely try out the GPR. You might surprise some AIMS 85 users. Moving on to the fastest killing SMG within ranked play, we got the Compact 92. Absolutely obliterates the Jackal PDW, the PP 919 in terms of time to kill. However, it is a little bit hard to control and doesn't have the best damage range. So that's why most people don't end up rocking this, because there's a little bit of a skill issue there. But in the right hands, this thing's a shredder. Let's check it out. Muzzle-wise, I still go with the quarter compensator, but I wouldn't be surprised if you went the regular compensator, just because you're going through a ton of bullets really quickly, and those first initial shots might not even matter at that point. Barrel-wise, I actually have the reinforced barrel here, but I wouldn't be surprised if you want to run the long barrel for as much damage range as possible, because this gun doesn't have the best damage range out there, but full velocity can come in clutch in certain moments. Underbarrel-wise, I got the vertical foregrip because it has so much recoil. If you wanted to, you could put the range of foregrip for even more movement, but I think accuracy is important with this gun, and that's why I got the vertical. To no one's surprise, we got the rear grip with the ergonomic, and the stock here is the balance stock, but I can honestly go with the nose stock or the infiltrator stock like with the other guns. And if you put on the gunfighter class, you could add a recoil spring to make the gun even more accurate and even more deadly. But with these 5 attachments that I started off with on the Compact 92, you can see the gun actually isn't inaccurate with this build. And you're usually using this gun up close, so pretty easy to get your kills, and it bodies really quickly. But once you stretch those ranges out, man, it is a little bit hard to get those shots, and you gotta like tap burst it and everything. But it's very accurate if you got the right skill set for it. So definitely try it out with this class. I think you might be kind of surprised. And last but not least, we got the PP 919. I'm just gonna kind of skip over this. Gun has no recoil, but it has such a slow time to go. I just don't find it worthy. Just use these 5 attachments. Fire mod can be whatever attachment you want, but you're better off just using the Compact 92 or the Jackal PDW. But if you guys ended up, enjoying these 5 class setups and you end up shredding within rank play, you have to let me know in the comments below. And once again, drop a like and subscribe and turn on the post notifications. I'll be uploading haHA gameplays here on, pubs, and maybe I'll mix in a ranked video here and there. Maybe before Black Ops 7 or whatever the case is. So, let me know how you're enjoying rank play as of Season 5 Reloaded. If you guys are looking forward to more content from me, check me out on my second channel, More Hero, where I'll be slaying out on Warzone, specifically Rebirth Island, getting high kill games over there. You guys can also follow me over on my Twitch, twitch.tv/themorphemyhero, where you guys can see me get my gameplays live and interact with me, ask me questions or whatever the case is. You can also subscribe to my Hero Shorts YouTube live stream channel, where I YouTube live stream the same time as my Twitch live streams. If you have a choice on watching on Twitch or YouTube, and I post short form content there, as well as posting short form content on my TikTok at tiktok.com/themorphemyhero. Hope you guys enjoyed the vid. What do you guys think of that camo from the beginning? Let me know if you pre-ordered Black Ops 7, have that exclusive Black Ops 6 cam. It's really, really nice. Then if you're covering the rest of the Season 5 Reloaded stuff later today, don't have those noties on. Just know you're the freaking best. I love you all.
say that Hawaii players are bot players. There used to be that saying where, hey, if you connect to a Hawaii lobby, it's going to be a bot lobby. The reason why there's that stigma is because we have to connect to a server that is far from us. Sometimes even with skill-based matchmaking,
trying to question me that I don't play against
it
Chinese
doesn't
people?
even take us to the California service. It'll take us somewhere
Of course I
central
play
like
with
in
China. I
Ohio,
play with
or
everybody.
all the way
You
east
trying to
coast,
question
such as
me, bro?
Florida. But come on, guys, come on. We heard it all, right? Why does it matter? All we have to do is just get a wired internet connection. All we have to do is just upgrade our internet, and boom, we're gonna have the same low ping as every other player out there. So help me God, I wish it was that easy. And that's the main reason for this video today. I just want to have players have a more clear understanding of what it means to have good connection in Call of Duty, why every single player does not have the ability to have that same good connection, whether they have good internet or not, whether they're wired in or not, and how this connection really affects someone's gameplay on a competitive level. If players truly understood what connection is in Call of Duty, they would understand why they still died even though they made it around the corner and they thought they weren't getting shot, or how they still lost that fight even though that they had the drop of it in the first place. Or sometimes you can literally empty an entire mag into somebody, but they just turn around, shoot you with a couple of bullets, and boom, you're the one that loses. We're going to be answering all of that today. But let's take it all the way back to the beginning, right? I want to talk about how Call of Duty originally started, how they connected their players into the lobby. Now, dedicated servers were only implemented at the start of Call of Duty Ghost. Any game title after Call of Duty Ghost release was switched to dedicated servers. Before that, they used to do P2P, aka peer-to-peer hosted lobbies. So the way peer-to-peer hosted lobbies work is that there'll be one player that the game decides to consider as a host. Whatever, it doesn't matter what region of the world, right? It'll be a player in California, player in East Coast, player in Central, whatever it may be, player in Hawaii. And any player that connects to that host is either going to share the same connection or have better or worse connection depending on the distance to that host. So to keep it very simple, if a player in California was the one hosted for the lobby, any California player is going to share the same low connection, while anybody else that, unfortunately is outside of California, whether it be a Hawaii player or somewhere on the East Coast, right, they can still connect to the one in California. It doesn't always happen, but due to low player counts on certain times of the days, that will happen. So those players are not going to have the same low connection because of the distance that they are to California. So to have a really good example is that, remember in Black Ops 2 and Black Ops 1, where during the scoreboard you could actually see the connection meter, right? You could see it going from red to yellow to orange to green. And haven't you ever noticed that when you were in green, you performed very well? All your shots registered, you felt like a god, you felt like a really good player in that match. But the moment it started to turn yellow, orange, red, right, your shots were suddenly missing. You thought you made it around the corner, but you didn't, and you still died. It's because when the host migrated to another player, whether it be in the next match or during the match, it changed it where it was no longer the Cali player hosting that match. It was somebody that was farther from you. Essentially, you lost host connection. And by that time, players would just start to leave because, okay, you know what, my connection isn't good anymore. Let me go to another lobby that I can get host connection. And then also too, with peer-to-peer hosted lobbies, there was also a security risk. There was ways that players could exploit peer-to-peer hosting that would essentially commandeer the lobby or effectively hurt other players in a malicious way. So that's another reason why they migrated away from peer-to-peer lobby. So fast forward now, they've migrated to dedicated servers. Now, dedicated servers, in the long term, it is really great. Unfortunately, it would have been awesome if they had dedicated servers for all players in the region. What happens now is that for any player that lives close to a server location, they're still going to have great connection consistently. But for all the players that don't have a server in their region, aka Hawaii players, we get the short end of the stick because of our distance to the servers. We are always going to have higher ping than majority of the players in the match. Now, I know you guys are going to come after me for this because I always get it every time I post content and very similar things talking about low ping players. I am not saying that you're only good because you have low ping. Do not get that mixed up. Whether you have low ping, whether you have high ping, if you have the skills to prove it, that doesn't say that you are not a skilled player just because you have low ping. I am simply stating that when it comes to an even online playing field, you do have the advantage and you need to realize that. Oh no, but what about peaker's advantage? What about lag compensation? High ping players have that advantage. First of all, peaker's specific advantage of peaker's advantage is the peaker itself. Second, with lag compensation, the only thing that the lag compensation system does is
So if you're having issues with lag in the game, there is one simple fix to it. So Call of Duty is actually downloading pictures from the internet or higher resolution pictures from the internet, put it on your game, meaning you are probably lagging your butt off if you don't have a good internet. So what you want to do is you change on-demand text streaming to minimum, meaning you don't want it to flip and start downloading stuff. Allocate texture care size, you want to put this in the smallest, and download you can put it on and make sure it's also on the smallest, or just turn it off if it doesn't matter to you. So if you're having issues with lag in the game, there is one simple fix to it. So Call of Duty is actually downloading.
what is going on, guys. Welcome to another video. Now there's a topic that I really want to deep dive in today. So for those of you who don't know, I play out of Hawaii. Hawaii players, as well as any Oceania region players, do not have a server to connect to. The closest server that we can connect to is going to be California, whether it be the LA servers or the San Francisco servers, but nonetheless, we don't have one here. There's a stigma to say that Hawaii players are bot players. There used to be that saying where, hey, if you connect to a Hawaii lobby, it's going to be a bot lobby. The reason why there's that stigma is because we have to connect to a server that is far from us. Sometimes even with skill-based matchmaking and engagement optimized matchmaking, it doesn't even take us to the California servers. It will take us somewhere central like in Ohio, or even all the way east coast such as Florida. But come on, guys, come on, we heard it all, right? Why does it matter? All we have to do is just get a wired internet connection. All we have to do is just upgrade our internet, and boom, we're going to have the same low ping as every other player out there. So help me God, I wish it was that easy. And that's the main reason for this video today. I just want to have players have a more clear understanding of what it means to have good connection in Call of Duty, why every single player does not have the ability to have that same good connection, whether they have good internet or not, whether they're wired in or not, and how this connection really affects someone's gameplay on a competitive level. If players truly understood what connection is in Call of Duty, they would understand why they still died even though they made it around the corner and they thought they weren't getting shot, or how they still lost that fight even though that they had the drop on them in the first place. Or sometimes you can literally empty an entire mag into somebody, but they just turn around, shoot you with a couple of bullets, and boom, you're the one that loses. We're going to be answering all of that today. But let's take it all the way back to the beginning, right? I want to talk about how Call of Duty originally started, how they connected their players into the lobby. Now, dedicated servers were only implemented at the start of Call of Duty Ghost. Any game title after Call of Duty Ghost release was switched to dedicated servers. Before that, they used to do P2P, aka peer-to-peer hosted lobbies. So the way peer-to-peer hosted lobbies work is that there'll be one player that the game decides to consider as a host. Whatever, it doesn't matter what region of the world, right? It'll be a player in California, player in East Coast, player in Central, whatever it may be, player in Hawaii, and any player that connects to that host is either going to share the same connection or have better or worse connection depending on the distance to that host. So to keep it very simple, if a player in California was the one hosted for the lobby, any California player is going to share the same low connection connection. While anybody else that unfortunately is outside of California, whether it be a Hawaii player or somewhere on the East Coast, right? They can still connect to the one in California. It doesn't always happen, but due to low player counts on certain time of the days, that will happen. So those players are not going to have the same low connection because of the distance that they are to California. So to have a really good example is that remember in Black Ops 2 and Black Ops 1, where during the scoreboard you could actually see connection here, right? You could see it going from red to yellow to orange to green. And haven't you ever noticed that when you were in green, you performed very well? All your shots registered, you felt like a god, you felt like a really good player in that match. But the moment it started to turn yellow, orange, red, right, your shots were suddenly missing. You thought you made it around the corner, but you didn't, and you still died. It's because when the host migrated to another player, whether it be in the next match or during the match, it changed it where it was no longer the Cali player hosting that match. It was somebody that was farther from you. Essentially, you lost host connection. And by that time, players would just start to leave because, okay, you know what, my connection isn't good anymore. Let me go to another lobby that I can get host connection. And then also to with peer-to-peer hosted lobbies, there was also a security risk. There was ways that players could exploit peer-to-peer hosting that would essentially commandeer the lobby or effectively hurt other players in a malicious way. So that's another reason why they migrated away from peer-to-peer lobby. So fast forward now, they've migrated to dedicated servers. Now, dedicated servers, in the long term, it is really great. Unfortunately, it would have been awesome if they had dedicated servers for all players in the region. What happens now is that for any player that lives close to a server location, they're still going to have great connection consistently. But for all the players that don't have a server in their region, aka Hawaii players, we get the short end of the stick because of our distance to the servers. We are always going to have higher ping than majority of the players in the match. Now, I know you guys are going to come after me for this because I always get it every time I post content and very similar things talking about low ping players. I am not saying that you're only good because you have low ping. Do not get that mixed up. Whether you have low ping, whether you have high ping, if you have the skills to prove it, that doesn't say that you are not a skilled player just because you have low ping. I am simply stating that when it comes to an even online playing field, you do have the advantage and you need to realize that. Oh no, but what about peaker's advantage? What about lag compensation? High ping players have that advantage. First of all, peaker's advantage benefits both high ping players and low ping players. The player that takes specific advantage of peaker's advantage is the peaker itself. Second, with lag compensation, the only thing that the lag compensation system does is does not benefit the high ping player. It only creates and record actions in the game that it's supposed to accurately show. So because low ping players have all their shots register faster, their movement register first in the server, guess what? The server is going to record for accuracy the low ping player, the player where their actions are going to be seen first on the server. But I digress. Let's not make this a whole low ping versus high ping debate on this. This is not the YouTube video for that. Now, there are two main things that you need to understand. You need to understand ping and you need to understand tick rate for the servers. To simplify, ping is the speed of a player's connection to the server. So essentially, how fast their shot registration, their movement, any action that they take on their end in them sitting in the chair, reaching to the server and the server reflecting that action, aka in the game. Now there are factors that can lower the ping. It would be internet service quality, it would be if you're a console or computer, you could specifically VPN and geolock yourself to the closest server. But in the end, majority of that ping connection that separates you from getting 10 ping to 100 ping is the geographical distance that that player has to a server. Even though data travels at a very fast rate on the internet, wouldn't you think that the amount of distance, say a California player that reaches a California server, which is probably only within 10 miles of where they live, you compare that to a Hawaii player that has to have their data travel 2,000 miles to the California server. Because of that sheer distance, that's the reason why data takes longer to travel. But ping is not the only thing you take into account. Now you look at server tick rates. Now, server tick rates is the speed in which the server receives that information and updates that into the game. It doesn't immediately go into the game. It has to receive it, then the game has to update information to put it into the game. So when they say that Call of Duty has 20 hertz tick rate servers, what that means is that the server is updating say if you truly wanted to know your connection speed to a server and how long it takes for your actions to connect to the server, let's say example you have a 50 millisecond latency, but because of that server tick rate cycle, right, it's 1/20 of a time, so it could either range between 1 millisecond more on top of your 50 or a full 50 milliseconds more on top of your 50. So your actions you take as a player can be as fast as 51 milliseconds, or it could be the full 100 milliseconds because of your 50 millisecond latency and the 50 millisecond server tick rate. Alright, so I made an illustrated example. Now excuse the kindergarten image work, I'm sorry. But let's look at it right here. This is the best visual explanation that I could give. So you look at player A and you look at player B. Now this 10 milliseconds is the player A speed connection where their data travels to the server in game, compared to player B where there is 100 milliseconds. That player is taking.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Ray here today, bringing you a Call of Duty Modern Warfare.
What is going on, guys? Welcome to another video. Now there's a topic that I really want to deep dive in today. So for What's going on, guys? Welcome to another video. Now there's a topic that I really want to deep dive in today. So for
Modern Warfare 2 gameplay commentary today. We'll be going over the Domination game mode, and we're going to cover pretty much all you need to know about Domination. One of you guys have asked me to do Domination, and I'm not going to lie, I have not played much Domination in this game until recently, and to my surprise, I actually kind of enjoyed it because earlier in the year I felt that Domination was just, it didn't feel the same, and I know partially why that is, and it has to do with the squad spawn system that we've been talking about and discussing here on the channel to help you guys learn the spawns in this game and how to predict your enemies. But squad spawn system makes Domination a little bit more difficult to predict, and I really hope that Infinity Ward pulls the Vanguard route, which was last year with Sledgehammer Games, where they overhaul the spawn system to make it more consistent and overall feeling like Domination. Because right now it's very tricky sometimes to even hold certain objectives, especially if you own them, and that should be influencing the enemy spawn. But it's not always the case. So anyways, without further ado, we're going to break down Domination today, and give you guys some tips and tricks for Domination, and how you guys can obviously, go ahead, get more kills, win more games, whatever it is you're trying to do. Let's get right into it. So first things first, let's go ahead and talk about Domination, some of the basic rules here. For our time limit, there is no time limit in Domination. The score limit, however, is 200 score, and therefore whichever team reaches 200 points first wins the game. Scoring, it works pretty simply. Okay, every 5 seconds, however flags you own is how much score your team will be rewarded. However many flags the enemy owns is how much score they will be rewarded. Again, it's in 5-second intervals. So for a basic mindset, Domination is pretty much best described as a tug-of-war style game mode as teams fight over the control of the map. The best strategy and most tried and true strategy is always to try to own 2 flags, either A or C, with the addition of B, and that will allow you to help hold map control, basically applying the most pressure in a tug-of-war scenario. If you capture all 3 flags, you should do this whenever you're behind in score and you're losing. If you're winning comfortably or even losing just by a little bit, it is not wise to do this, as you have a much better time just holding map control. And the reason for this is because it's extremely risky due to the nature of the spawns and the fact that they'll pretty much get randomized, and there will be a lot of people just shooting you in the back, which is going to make it super easy for you to lose control of the map, resulting in the enemies to regain flags. As for some simple tips for Domination, if you are someone who likes to directly capture and defend flags, utilizing score streaks is going to be your best friend. However, if you like to run flanks more often and make breaks on the map, you're going to want to utilize kill streaks, as you're most likely not going to be, well, exactly touching the flags. If your team occupies 2 flags and you aren't down too far in score, lock down the map and hold some angles based off of your teammates' positioning on the minimap. If you're in a party, try to communicate in order to lock down these angles on the map in order to defend your home flag and B. And if you're solo, pay attention to your teammates and where they are positioned, so that way you can try to position yourself on angles that aren't being blocked.
half the enemy team may spawn near B, and the other half may spawn near A. This split spawn is very unpredictable, and a lot of the times it'll just end up getting you and your teammates killed because you'll have enemies attacking you from
So, what's a guy? This video is a follow-up to another video we did on this channel called Prometheus Actually Explained with Real Answers. I highly recommend you watch that video first before you watch this one, since I'll be expanding on things I already addressed in that video. It's been a few months since Alien Covenant came out, and I can't say I'm surprised that the reception has been even worse than the reception for Prometheus. And just like Prometheus, I think Covenant is getting a lot more hate than it deserves. So I'd like to be one of the very few people speaking in its defense. I've had a chance to see all of the internet's rantings and ravings, and I've been able to condense the bad reviews down to these three most common criticisms. It's tonally confused and doesn't know what kind of movie it wants to be. It doesn't expand on the themes of Prometheus, it's just a dumb sci-fi horror movie with no deeper meaning. And nothing in the film makes sense, and all of the characters are stupid, just like in Prometheus. The first criticism is the result of the filmmakers' response to the overly harsh reception of Prometheus. Instead of making the movie they planned to make, they changed it in order to please critics that demanded a return to the form of the first two films.
Prometheus was very successful. The question at the end of it was something about some of the notes we look on social media and then good film, but they missed Ted and the evolution, chestnuts and Facebook, all that stuff. And I went, you know what? And I'm in the process then of planning a Covenant. We've got to have reintroduce it so that
science fiction of Prometheus and the B-movie action horror of the first two Alien films. If you don't think the attempt was successful and you don't find the film entertaining as a result, that's a perfectly valid opinion, and you are entitled to it. I agree that Ridley Scott should have ignored the critics and just made the movie he wanted to make, but I still enjoyed the film for what it was. It's a matter of personal taste, and there's probably nothing I can do to change your mind in that regard. The second 2 points are where I'd like to focus my attention. If you're looking for Covenant to be a resurrection of the first two Alien movies, you're going to be disappointed. If you're looking for Covenant to expand on the themes of Prometheus and provide new insight to the engineer's motivations, the general consensus on the internet is that you will also be disappointed. This is a criticism I find profoundly confusing because Alien Covenant does provide answers to many of Prometheus' questions and fills in almost all of the philosophical gaps while giving surprising new depth to its themes. That is, if you're looking for it to do so and aren't distracted by how stupid everyone is. Before I get to the heavy stuff and explain how Alien Covenant gives deeper meaning to Prometheus and the Alien franchise as a whole, I'd like to address the third point and show that both the plot and the characters' actions make a little more sense than people are giving them credit for.
What's the significance of the name Covenant?
It's a reference to the Mayflower Compact, a governmental agreement signed by the Pilgrims when they landed in the New World. In the film, the Covenant is a ship full of colonists on their way to establish a settlement on the distant planet Omicron Persei 8. There are also the obvious biblical references being carried over from Prometheus. A covenant is an agreement between God and man.
Why is James Franco only in the film for 3 seconds?
The film's co-writer, Dante Harper, stated in an interview with The Hollywood Reporter that James Franco's character was always meant to die at the beginning of the film, and that they had originally planned to include more of him in character-building flashbacks and dream sequences. These were cut for time.
Why is Daniels able to move on so quickly after her husband's death?
To establish her character as a doer that can be responsible and make herself useful, even in the face of a terrible tragedy. Even so, there are several scenes that show her to be unsure of her place in the mission and in life after the loss of her husband.
How did Earth scientists miss the alien planet in Covenant if they scanned the whole sector?
With an infinite number of stars in all directions, it's not unreasonable to think that Earth scientists could have just missed the planet in their scans, as Captain Oram says to Daniels. It's also possible that the engineers were shielding the planet with the intense atmosphere and electrical storms.
Why does the crew of the Covenant decide to go to a planet they know nothing about instead of the planet they had already run simulations for? Why are they so stupid?
After discovering the planet, they quickly determined that its potential for colonization is beyond the most optimistic projections of Omicron Persei 8. It's a better candidate. They then choose to swing by just to take a look.
Why didn't the crew wait until the horrible electrical storm subsided before landing? Why are they so stupid?
The electrical storm that cuts contact with the away team and keeps the Covenant from getting close to the planet doesn't start until long after they land.
Why don't the crew of the Covenant take some basic ratings of the alien planet before exiting the lander? Why are they so stupid?
They do. After the lander touches down, you can hear Mother listing details about the planet's atmospheric composition in the background.
Why didn't the ship's scanners pick up the alien city within walking distance of their landing site?
What is this, Star Trek? They don't pick it up because they aren't looking for it. If you recall from the first film, and you probably don't, the Prometheus had to fly directly over the terrain before it could get detailed information about it.
Why doesn't anyone in this film wear a space helmet? Why are they so stupid?
Speaking of Star Trek, remember every single away mission the Enterprise crew ever went on? Why didn't they ever wear helmets? Why are they so stupid? The only reason this is a question is because Prometheus and Covenant are horror movies about aliens and pathogens, so you're expecting things to go wrong before the movie even starts. It's like a slasher flick where the girl is going into the cabin to find her friend. You know the killer just murdered her friend.
When Prometheus first came out, a lot of people, even some reviewers, thought that it took place on LV-426, the setting for Alien and its follow-up, Aliens. But most of us knew or learned pretty quickly that the focus instead would be on LV-223. But why'd they choose LV-223, a moon in orbit around the same gas giant, Alcamos, as LV-426 was? Most of us assumed that it was one of the change-ups brought on by Damon Lindelof, as all of the known scripts by Jon Spaihts used LV-426. But Damon's known draft simply saved the planet. So it appears that even before Damon's involvement, the idea to use LV-223 as a setting was around. Now let's see if we can find out why. Jon Spaihts, co-writer for Prometheus, was recently on the Script Apart podcast where they were talking about an earlier draft
how those things would play, but that they weren't sure if those movies would ever get made. So they left themselves escape hatches, meaning that if they only got to do one film, it would be good enough prequel-wise. They were consciously developing story as so that Prometheus could lead directly into Alien, or it could lead to a branch path, and there would be another story that would play in between Prometheus and Alien, giving them more time on this way station. So it appears that even they were unsure of how Prometheus, or a movie tied to Alien, could do at the time. And they were using LV-223 as a stopgap to getting to LV-426, giving them time to expand on the story of the engineers, the accelerant, and a host of other Giger-type aliens. Yet to me, it sounds like John felt that you could still go to LV-426 for Prometheus and still get the prequel trilogy that they were looking for. Because when he was later asked about the changes to the end of the final act from Alien Engineers to Prometheus, this is what he had to say. Well, telling the just so story of the space jockey, which that would have been, because you see the pilot of Juggernaut unite with his pilot scene, he essentially becomes a living space jockey. He puts on his suit and acquires the appearance of the creature that we met dead in Alien. We also come to realize that the reason he was in the engineer's version of Cold Sleep was because he was infected. Whether he knew it or not, he had been awakened and is now trying to get home. So that way, if the movie was made, the link to Alien would be made, where the pilot is killed and crash lands, creating the circumstances that the Nostromo would find later. It was provocative, and it left the door open for other sequels. And along with John and Ridley's doubts about further prequels made, leading us to LV-223, the studio was heading there as well. When John came aboard, the project was an Alien prequel, using titles like Alien Origin, Alien Engineers, and Alien Genesis. Then Fox had a change of heart. Now, I've heard of this change of focus before, from the Alien to the Engineers, but I didn't know that John tied it to the release of Inception. He said that to Fox, it was this huge original successful sci-fi epic, and here they are working on a prequel like everyone else is doing. So changes and a retitle were made. What began with John's work as a direct Alien prequel with side prequel stories to follow, later became a side story in the Alien universe that led to the direct prequel on LV-426, except it still hasn't happened yet. And now I'm sure they would have ironed all this out in later drafts, but Alien Engineers did leave some issues for later movies. If the story did take place on LV-426, then there wouldn't have just been a derelict for the Nostromo and Weyland-Yutani to find there later on. There would be an entire complex of engineered pyramids and possibly more juggernauts. There would also be the crashed Prometheus, or Magellan as it was then called, an escape pod, and a whole host of dead human, engineer, and various alien bodies, all left to be discovered. Ridley stated that the decision to not have things take place on the same planet was intentional, and that he didn't like the idea of the Nostromo picking up a signal from the very same ship that we saw in Prometheus because it was just too neat, too clean. What are your thoughts on LV-223? I'm actually glad that we got to see another moon in the same system as 426, as it did greatly expand on the Alien universe. But without a third prequel or follow-up story, we're left waiting for a return to Acheron. Thanks for watching, guys, and as always, your likes, shares, comments, and subscriptions go a long way towards helping the channel grow. Take care, and I hope to see you next time. In Prometheus, we learned that it was the engineers who guided and modified what would become the human race. But then for some unknown reason, they chose to destroy us. Was mankind to the engineers simply an experiment, a curiosity not worth keeping? Or was there more to the story, something hinted upon, yet left for later sequels and possibly lost in subsequent drafts? Many of us within the Alien fandom have often wondered if there were separate groups or factions within the engineers. Well, John Spates, the co-writer for Prometheus, confirmed in a recent podcast that he and Ridley both like the idea of a schism within the engineers, an idea that clears up some of their mystery. John Spates was the initial writer for Prometheus, and he worked with Ridley Scott on the groundwork and world building for the early prequel universe. He was recently on the Script Apart podcast where they were talking about his work on Alien Engineers, an early draft for Prometheus, and in it he explains that built into the premise of Prometheus is an implied strength that can create conflict and consequence in subsequent installations of the story. The notion that there are sympathetic and unsympathetic engineers towards the human project. He even goes on to say, when talking about early ideas for a follow-up to Alien Engineers, that there was a war in heaven between the engineer factions. Now, before we unpack all this, again, this is from an earlier script of Prometheus when it was going by the title Alien Engineers. Later on, when Damon Lindelof was brought on board as co-writer, some important plot points were switched up. For example, at the time, LV-426 was the story's main setting, with the idea that it could, and eventually would be, changed to LV-223. So when I refer to LV-223, instead of calling it LV-223/LV-426, I'll simply call it the Moon. So John tells us that he and Ridley both like the idea that there are factions within the engineers, calling them either good or bad angels in terms of how they view mankind. Now, the engineer at the beginning of Prometheus, from the oval-shaped ship, who sacrifices himself to create or modify the humans, is obviously Prometheus or one of his followers. And if they aren't part of the good angels group, then the engineers as a whole may not be the planet seeders that many saw them as. And humans may have been their only creation. Cut footage from the sacrificial scene does include other engineers, but we'll come back to them in a minute. We then have the last engineer, or the last survivor of the Juggernaut crew on the Moon, who David eventually wakes up. He is obviously one of the bad angels, as he is sickened by the sight of humans and David and attacks them soon after he is woken up. Looking at Alien Covenant, we have the engineers on Planet 4. There are those that see them as a seeded race, like the humans, but they are confirmed to be engineers by the actors who played their parts, and by Ridley Scott himself. But are they good angels, or bad ones? Here are just a few possible scenarios of how I think the engineer factions may be aligned. Set 1. There are 3 groups of engineers: the good angels, the Prometheus group, and the bad angels. The Prometheus group seeded Earth, and they and the good angels have left the universe or were killed off. The Prometheus left instructions for humans to find an outpost of theirs, as we know they keep their home planet location hidden. But they have ascended or died off before the humans arrived. The Planet 4 engineers are the bad angels, and they take over this moon outpost and use the alien to destroy the work of Prometheus for the humans. Set 2. There are 2 groups. The Prometheus is part of the good angels, and then there are the abolitionists, the bad angels. The good angels seeded Earth, meaning that seeding planets is normal for the engineers, and that there may be other worlds with similar beings. They leave instructions to find their outpost on the moon, but they are gone before the humans arrive. The bad angels are on Planet 4, and they take over the moon outpost, using the alien to destroy the humans. Now, these first 2 sets may be more likely to be right, as they may line up with the kind of technology used by each group as seen in the films, be it biomechanical or mechanical. Both the Moon and Planet 4 groups would use biomechanical juggernauts, with the Moon engineers also seen wearing the biomechanical pressure suits. Even Planet 4, at least in the Alien Engineer script, contains biomechanical Giger-like architecture. In contrast, the Prometheus group is only seen using the Oval Saucer, a mechanical ship with no biomechanical nature, and they aren't seen wearing the pressure suits. But if the technology used isn't a factor, here are 2 more scenarios for engineer alignment. Set 3. There are 3 groups: the good angels, the Prometheus group, and the bad angels. The Prometheus group makes the humans, leaves instructions to the outpost moon, and leaves or is killed off. The Planet 4 group are the good angels, who haven't left yet or are preparing for the journey. The bad angels have taken the moon outpost and used the alien to destroy the humans. And then there's Set 4. There are 3 groups: good angels, Prometheus group, and bad angels. The Prometheus group makes the humans, leaves instructions to the moon outpost, and is now on Planet 4, possibly staying behind to watch the humans. The bad angels have taken the moon and used the alien to destroy the humans. Now, I'm sure there are other possible alignments, but you get the point. I also assume here, for simplicity's sake, that the moon was originally an outpost or way station that was later turned into the dangerous bioweapons facility, as there would need to be a reason why we were invited there so long ago by our creators when it's currently controlled by the bad angels. As for the 2 sizes of engineers, we idea of factions within the engineers survived from the early ideas and on into Alien Covenant, I do wonder if David knows about it. He learned much of the engineers during his long stay on the Juggernaut in transit from LV-223 to Planet 4, and if he does know about it, there's a possibility that he wiped out Planet 4 for their stance on mankind, especially if it was pro-human. So I'd be willing to bet that he wiped them all out regardless. It could also mean that mankind has yet to meet a good angel, and there may not even be any of them left in our universe. This good or benevolent angel faction may even explain earlier thoughts on the space jockeys where they were seen as peaceful. In the Book of Alien, the actors and crew would note that they felt instinctively that the space jockey was a benign creature, though they couldn't say why. And in the novelization of Alien by Alan B. Foster, Ash describes the space jockey's race as a noble people and hopes that mankind will encounter them under more pleasant circumstances. Even Alien's writer Dan O'Bannon and the creator of the Xenomorph, H.R. Giger, both saw the space jockey race as friendly and sympathetic. They were not creators of mankind and were just another victim of the alien. Strangely enough, there is an Easter egg backing up the idea of engineer warring factions during Mission 8, Rampart, from the Aliens Colonial Marines game. If you shoot at the pilot's head inside of the derelict ship, it will activate a holographic battle between a ship similar to the Juggernaut and the oval ship used by the Prometheus group, otherwise called the Vast Black Ship, or the Pebble. I know many of you will say that you thought this existed all along, but it's nice to get some confirmation on the idea. What are your thoughts on engineer factions? Or if you want to hear the Scripted Part podcast where this information came from, I'll have links to both down in the description. Thanks for watching, guys, and as always, your likes, shares, comments, and subscriptions go a long way towards helping the channel grow. Take care, and I hope to see you next time.
Tell me why I can't use the mother line. I never want to stay on.
Have a salad every single day and not be mad about it. It's refreshing, ready in 10 minutes, healthy, and really, really good. It's made from a combination of cherry tomatoes, cucumbers, red onions, cilantro, and of course some ripe avocados. Try to pick avocados that are still a little firm and not completely soft. Otherwise, the salad could get a little mushy when you mix it together. Spread it all together, add a little olive oil, white wine vinegar, lemon juice, salt, and black pepper. This sauce really does both meats and makes the best side dish. I could eat this avocado salad
eggs run towards life cycle, and it's far more than just a single living egg. At first glance, it looks like a leathery pod standing around 2.5 feet tall with a tough brown, black, or grayish skin. But it is actually a complete organism in itself, with its own complex biological systems inside. Each of these eggs is normally produced by a queen through her ovipositor, and from the moment it is created, it already contains a fully formed face hugger waiting inside, which means both of them, the egg and the face hugger, are developed side by side inside the queen, and sometimes by other means too. These eggs are capable of keeping their occupant alive for an astonishingly length of time, often centuries or even thousands of years, by locking away their acid-rich blood into stable salts that slowly release energy over millennia. This explains how eggs on derelict ships, like the one on LV-46, can still hold viable face huggers after countless years of dormancy. And what truly sets the ovomorph apart from other eggs is its ability to sense and react to potential hosts. At its base, this egg has a rudimentary nervous system linked to a network of pressure and temperature sensitive coils and veins that spreads all around the surface area. And these act like sensory organs, kind of like sensing the environment, much as how a snake does with its tongue. So when a host approaches, the egg becomes active, unlocking its
missed some opportunities, but thought those players that they played well tonight, and they kind of came back after a short week, went on the road, and came in here and got the win. So good win, and we'll move on.
When we get started with questions, we have a microphone that you can raise your hand and pass the microphone. Right here in the front.
Game involved that, but getting connected to this place that you stuck around since day one with your dad, how special is it for you to really know that?
Yeah, it's great. It's great. It's really about the team. The players went out there and made the plays tonight. The staff did a great job. It was disappointing Monday night against TCU, but these guys bounced back. All of them, players, coaches, staff, support people, everybody. They just got back to work, and were determined to have a better outcome. And so, yeah, just really proud of what they did. They're the ones that really took the credit tonight.
Bill, talked to 10 minutes with Tucker about that. What do you guys congratulate him in the first half? I know you guys might have a tougher game than NC. What was working for you guys on offense in that drive?
Yeah, that was a big drive for us. I thought that Gio and Freddie, offensive coordinator Freddie, and they really managed the clock well. We made a couple first downs. We got in a position to score, and ultimately got the touchdown and left a few seconds on the clock. So that was a big swing for us. That we had a similar situation last week against TCU, and we kind of messed that up, and then they ended up kicking a field goal at the end of the half. So that was a big drive for us there to close out the half. Very well executed. Got a big run there from Bullet on the touchdown run. So offensive line blocked well, and we executed protection. Gio made a couple key plays on that drive. So it was really just great execution. I think 30 yards. Make plays for 10 plays, something like that. It's good. Yeah. We don't get it all in one play. You got to execute a bunch of them. We executed a few on that drive, so it was really great. One of the highlights of the night, honestly, just that drive at that time in the game.
Right. Hey, there's Brent Setzer, cover on this side. Speaking of the running game, Lamar June, really impressive man. Really got to see explosiveness out of the backfield. What you see from him today, and what is he still need to work on moving forward?
Yeah, well, we've got quite a few touches for most all of our backs, and it's nice when there's a hole to see the backs run through it. So we got to give the line a lot of credit for opening up some of those creases for him. But Juju ran well. He's got some explosion, and it's good to see him make a few plays and be productive with him. But I thought really all the backs ran hard, and Charlotte blitzed us quite a bit, so there were a lot of pass protection situations that they had to step up in. Their linebackers are good blitzers, and so that was a challenge for us. But I thought those guys did a good job in pass protection too, which is probably as much as everybody wants to talk about the running game. Pass protection is key for the backs, and certainly nobody appreciates it more than the quarterback.
All right, coach.
Bill, it looked like you guys were able to get Gio sort of own the group more and out of the pocket and get to work in space. That was a nice sort of four-person managed vision from him compared to the other against TCU and kind of some defense stuff.
think we had more positive plays on first down, kind of the reverse of what I said about our offense. We had more positive plays on first down, which created second and longs and third and longs, and that, it's a great situation for us to pass it. And we played it in the middle. So, the fourth quarter, we got it to them by 2 scores, 3 scores. Like 10 minutes ago in the game whenever we kicked that last field goal. So those are the situations for us to pass it in. And you just saw last week when we were on the other side, how compared to scheme on moments we were getting beat. So score has a lot to do with it, and he created one of those situations. But it's just better for everybody to watch.
Right. So just overall, what do you feel the weakness are showing? And Bradley, what areas do you think still a lot of work to be done and what's the tough time?
Right. So again, offensively, we didn't turn the ball over. We had more production on first down, which led to.
Feeling tough, disappointing opener. Charlotte losing to App State. The kick away and into the end zone for a touchback at quarterback. But it is Lopez to start tonight with Benjamin Hall and Caleb Hood in the backfield. Lopez throwing. It will go to Hall in the flats. And a nice pickup on first down. Empty set for Lopez. Quick throw out wide to Caleb Hood, one of those other running backs. Another first down, and Hood runs through a tackler. That was Ty Baldwin on the outside.
Underneath area, easy game for North Carolina.
Caleb Hood in the backfield. It's all Lopez going in the air. Deep this time. Has a man open. What a start for the Tar Heels. Chris Culliver on the long ball from 51 yards out.
Runs by the Charlotte defender. Terrific pass protection, and Gio Lopez drops it right in the bucket. As Ty Baldwin transferred from Ball State, and Culliver.
Harrell, 6'2", 210 pounds from Alabaster, Alabama. Hands off to C.J. Stokes on the first play, who pushes ahead for 5 yards. Won't seen a big receiver emerge yet for Charlotte. Just their second game, of course. They lost their leader, Omega Blake, a season ago. Into the flats, hit coming down from the secondary. Gavin Gibson delivering the blow to E.J. Mason. Early trend in this 2025 season for North Carolina is the opening drive touchdowns. 2 for 2 after not scoring on 13 opening drives a season ago. That's Jordan Shipp in motion, one of North Carolina's biggest weapons. Lopez looking the way of Shipp. He's going to go underneath, though, and has a man again. Plenty of space here down the sideline to the 37. Javarius Green. Shipp in motion. Lopez chase. He's got some wheels too and crosses the 10-yard line out of bounds at the 13. Been a tough catch, but probably one Charlotte would like to have back. A nice throw to Nicholas from Loftus. Little high school. Loftus with time, looking sideline toward Nicholas, and it looked like he got a toe tap down there at the 46-yard line. 40 and ticking left with Charlotte trailing by 17. Loftus pushing it down the field, and a nice throw and catch. The tight end Gus McGee going up and getting it.
You can cap off this fourth quarter for Charlotte with some positive momentum.
From the 9-yard line, Loftus staring down a big man in his face, and it's picked off at the goal line. This might go the other direction. Last chance to make the stop, and it's made. Greg Smith, the redshirt freshman, with his first interception. I like
horrors that they encountered inside, shining a bit more light on the events that led to the extermination of the derelict space jockey crew. Perched up high in the rover, Newt and her brother Timmy would watch anxiously as their parents entered the bizarre alien craft. Anne was nervous and puzzled by the ship's biomechanical makeup. She wanted to call in the find and take the kids back to town, but Russ was excited and reminded her that this find could set them up for life. Once inside, the air was cold, yet it was heavy with humidity. They come to a spiral walkway that leads to a lower level, and the two decide that anything of worth would be stored in the cargo area, which would likely be below, so they head on down the path. But Anne stops when she sees pits and scars that appear to be melted into the wall and the floor. Unfazed, Russ just says later and continues on. But as they do so, she starts seeing more and more of the damage, which we know is caused by the xenomorph's acidic blood. But now she's seeing a new form of damage, where holes are blasted into the walls from some sort of weapon. Looking to take pictures of the area, Russ turns on a brighter light, and to their unease, they see that the texture on the walls is not biomechanical anymore. Whatever is on the walls here seems to be entirely organic. It's black and gleaming like an insect cocoon or a volcanic rock. Anne would break off a piece of it, noting that it was chitinous and hard but brittle at the same time. Now Russ was finally beginning to worry like Anne was. But even so, they pressed on, hoping to find an engine room or pilot's cabin nearby. As the reader, you can tell that Anne is beginning to figure things out here when she notices that she can't shake the feeling that she's trapped in a spider's web or maybe the nest of a wasp. After heading down another level, they find their first alien bodies. Something about it suggested an insect, which gave her an unnerving connection to her thoughts about the hard substance that coated the walls. Yet this was no bug. But Russ just said that it had been dead for a long time, and that it was going to make them rich. Now further into the ship, they notice that the alien hive material has now completely taken over the halls, and Anne sees even more of the spatters from the alien's blood. At a curve in the hallway, they find 3 more xeno bodies. One is torn in half, while another has an enormous hole through its midsection. There are doors on either side, but many of them have been sealed shut by the hive material. Looking for the doors that they can access, they find some kind of livestock pens and a room with thick metal alloy shelves with mounds of something that had been rotted away. Continuing on, they find even more xenomorph bodies, now in clusters and piled up. They then find the corpse of something different. The new creature, more humanoid than the first, was larger than the others, 9 feet tall at least. All that remained of his body was its skeleton. The bones were in some kind of exosuit, using the same kind of biomechanical design as the ship. Feeling like they finally found the evidence that they need to stake their claim, they took several minutes to record the area before heading out. However, while on the way out, they notice a corridor that heads off towards the crux of the ship. They've come this far, so why not check it out? Around the next corner, to their surprise, they find one of each of the 2 alien species, locked in a terrible embrace. But this bug-like creature was different from its brethren. It was larger and had a large, rich plate on its bright blue head that seemed to be a kind of crest. What the hell happened here, muttered Russ. War, said Anne. The question is, where did the bugs come from? Were they on the ship, in the cargo hold, or were they already here on Akron and attacked the ship after the crash? And what about this one, Russ asked. Why is it so different? It's a queen. What? You mean like with bees? Doesn't this all remind you of a hive? Maybe the others are like drones, and this one is like a queen. She gestured at the crested walls. She then shrugged, or maybe that crest on its head just makes me think of a crown. The alien she thought of as a queen had impaled the crewman with its tail, but the crewman had given as good as he'd gotten. He thrust his left arm up inside the queen's jaws as if he tried to destroy its brain with the bare hand. Now Russ is getting uncomfortable, so they decide to move on, where they find what some call the pilot or the space jockey in its chair. It's the same one found by the crew of the Nostromo. They crawl up onto it to inspect it, where they find the hole in its ribcage. Russ thinks it was done externally by an alien, but Anne sees that the ribs are broken outwards from the chest. Whatever did this came out of it. She then stumbles back, nearly falling off of the chair, and now facing the back wall, where she sees the egg chamber, and of course, they choose to investigate. The air in the chamber is very humid, like the ship drawing in moisture from outside and holding it here in this area. Anne, who was the first one to be anxious and cautious here, is now more curious instead, making me think of Alien Prototype, a novel made well after River of Pain that proposes that ovomorphs use pheromones to lure hosts in, lowering their inhibitions. Anne thinks to herself that whatever they are, they must be dead by now like everything else. Should we bring one back? She starts examining one of them. Are they pulsing? Russ asks. She sees it, but she thinks to herself, these can't be alive. They've obviously been here for millennia, like dead flowers. She reaches for the closest one, only a foot away, and Russ says, wait, we don't know what they are. She turns to him and smiles. If they're toxic, my gloves will protect me. Let's set up the camera, take some images, and Simpson can worry about it, Russ urged. Now where's your sensitive nature? Only to see her husband's eyes widen at the same time as she heard a wet, sticky, peeling noise from behind her. Russ grabbed her arm and hauled her toward him. Beyond Russ, he saw the pod opening, strings of mucus hanging from the four petal-like flaps as it split apart. Something shifted and jerked inside the object. Russell, she said, suddenly afraid. It's all right, he told her, glancing over at the pod. The thing within launched itself at him, latched onto his face, and he tried to scream. The sound became a horrible gagging as he stumbled back into her. Anne cried out his name as she shoved and dragged and urged him up onto the platform. Only there did she see the back of the hideous spider thing that had attached itself to him. It's all right, he had said, but it was not all right, nor would it ever be all right again. Now, in the past, all we knew about the derelict on LV-426 was that a lone space jockey died in a chair from an alien, and that its cargo was full of alien eggs. But now we see that there were other space jockeys on the ship, and that there was more than a single alien breakout. The aliens were able to produce a queen on the ship, and were able to cover a large amount of it in hive material. Personally, I'm not sure if I like the hive material aspect. To me, all of the derelict that we saw in 1979's Alien looked biomechanical and not like hive structure. Though if you do like the idea of hive materials on the derelict, it could explain the differences in looks from the more organic ship here and the more machined look of the engineered juggernaut. To learn about other visits to LV-426 or the space jockeys, check out one of these videos. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you next time.
Hardcore team deathmatch. All targets declared hostile. Happy hunting, Crimson.
Xenomorph aliens are well known for their complex life cycle, yet none of the creatures from the Alien franchise would have a more complicated creation than that of the Deacon, an alien thought by some to be the origin of the species. It would only appear briefly in Prometheus and would be cut out of its only comic book appearance. Yet, in my opinion, it still holds an important position on the family tree of the Xenomorph. So today, let's take a look at the evolution of the alien that would become the Deacon, while we also look at what could have been if Fox lit the fire in its own comics and used their likeness. The story of the Deacon would actually begin with another alien, the Ultramorph. A favorite design of mine, the Ultramorph was meant to show us what kind of alien would grow inside of an engineered host versus a human one. There are examples of this type of alien from Space Jockey Hosts and Aliens Infestation and Aliens Apocalypse Destroying Angels. The one that would evolve into the Deacon, however, was from concept art by Carlos Huante, and it would appear during the climax in John Spate's early draft of Alien Engineers, where the Ultramorph would be the alien that came out of the jockey that was discovered by the Nostromo crew on the derelict vessel on LV-426. However, at this point in the production, the execs at Fox had made the decision to try to take the Xenomorph out of the film and make it more about the engineers. A change that would bring in Damon Lindelof, who would go on to rewrite the script per their wishes. This would see the Ultramorph become the Deacon, something farther off in the lineage of the Xenomorph. For its initial design, they would look to the Beluga, another concept from Huante that would have emerged from an infected holoid. This concept would be altered to become the Deacon, where its color would go from white to blue. Neil Scanlon, the creature and special effects supervisor, had this to say on the change. The quality of the Deacon's skin is based on the placenta when a horse gives birth. Steve Messing managed to get it. Something between horrific and beautiful with the way he rendered the quality of the surface treatment. It
had a sort of iridescent quality that we really wanted. So it was kind of beautiful and scary. Yet Carlos Huante had this to say of the change to AVP Galaxy in an interview. Why was it blue? I don't know. The illustration was blue as to emphasize the whiteness in a dark blue setting, and I was following some inspirational paintings that a contemporary Russian painter did of a man's head that Arthur had sent me from Ridley. The creatures were all supposed to be albino. They were supposed to look simple, beautiful, and ghostly, like a beluga whale in dark Arctic water. This concept is further explained by another quote from Carlos Huante in The Art of Prometheus. Once I realized that this film's timeline was taking place before the Giger-esque aesthetic would come into effect, I started homing in on a design aesthetic that I felt would complement the beautiful Giger style that saturated the first film. I wanted everything white and refined. Ridley and I were right in tune with each other on this. I mean, Ridley was looking at paintings that had white ghost-like creatures as reference for the engineers. Unfortunately, the Deacon would also get a coat of paint over its flesh, but the white alien would go on to be used in Alien Covenant with the Neomorphs. Where the Ultramorph was simply a Xeno from an engineer, a Deacon would be the result of a much different conception. It begins with Holloway ingesting a small amount of the black accelerant substance in a drink that was spiked by David. This in turn would infect Holloway's own sperm, which would grow into the trilobite in the womb of Elizabeth Shaw. Once outside, the trilobite would grow to an amazing size and would subdue and infect an engineer with what would become the Deacon. The trilobite does resemble a much larger facehugger, but I would suggest that its human reproductive beginnings are what led to the Deacon emerging with what appears to be an egg sac for possible nourishment, along with a tube running from the Deacon to the engineer. The newly discovered alien would use the point on the back of its head to cut its way free from the engineer, where it would then spill out onto the floor. Concept art would portray the Deacon standing with balance and power, whereas the one in the film was more like an infant learning how to stand for the first time. A change that was explained by Neil Scanlon. Bulls are ungangly and ungraceful, but have to grow quickly. Just like giraffes and other animals born in the wild, they would have to get on their feet and ambulatory very quickly. This was a strategy for the Deacon. Now, according to the Book of Alien, little is known about the creature dubbed the Deacon due to the shape of its skull when saw LB-223 in 2094. It seems clear, however, that while undeniably physically similar, the creature was not a xenomorph. Company scientists hypothesize that it is instead a byproduct of the engineered chemical known as the black goo, intended for use as a bioweapon. If we assume that the xenomorph species itself was originally deliberately bioengineered, the Deacon may be an earlier abandoned iteration of research that is ongoing. The Deacon name itself was a reference to the pointy head having a similar shape to a DK's hat. The bottom jaw could extend, while a second upper jaw would shoot out, an idea from Ridley Scott after looking at the jaws of goblin sharks. Because the alien was grown in an engineer, they would be larger than their xenomorph cousins, especially if they grew any after birth, which the expanded universe would attempt to touch on, but we'll get to that in a minute. The creature had a body frame like the Xenos, except with bluish-gray skin that was smooth and lacked any biomechanical features. Its head would be elongated like the Xenos. It also had no tail and had no visible eyes like the Xenos and aliens. Yet it also lacked a translucent faceplate, a big chap. We have no evidence if they have acid for blood in the film universe, but this would be addressed in the comic books. The height and weight of the newborn Deacon is also unknown, but from the scene in Prometheus, it appears to me that if it was to stand upright, it could be around the height of an engineer at around 9 feet, which would already put it taller than a full-grown Xeno, which would stand at 7 to 8 feet tall. To find out even more about the Deacon, we need to look to the Aliens Expanded Universe at the Dark Horse crossover event, Fire and Stone, that featured interlinking comics under the titles Aliens, Predator, AVP, and Prometheus. The Deacon was last seen on film in the year 2093, and the comics would make a return mission to LB-223 in 2219, 126 years later. The series was originally intended to showcase the Deacons, while still throwing xenomorphs into the mix, but Fox chose to hold back on the usage of the Deacon with the Prometheus sequel still in the works. There was a cover image to Predator Fire and Stone #1 that did feature the Deacon, but it was changed before the comic was released. see a mountain with peaks that look like the heads of deacons or some other accelerant-type growth. Later on in Aliens Issue 4, Francis, a survivor on the moon, is desperately trying to hide from the aliens and engineers. He ends up finding a pre-built shelter in a cave on that same mountain. Here he would perform experiments with the black substance along with studying the environment, where he would notice that the mountain itself was getting bigger. He would even say that he believes that the mountain is protecting him from the alien threats here on the moon. The last reference would appear in the finale of the series with Fire and Stone Prometheus Omega. The crew on LV-223 had been researching a signal of human origin coming from inside the mountain. And here in this issue, they find out that it's actually coming from the Prometheus ship itself. They would use the mining vessel Onager to drill into the side of the mountain, yet once inside, they would hit a river of acid. Until it dawns on Eldon, their mutated synthetic, that the mountain is, in fact, alive. He notes that whatever it is must have been on Wayland's ship and has now grown up around it. Due to the accelerant, it evolved too fast, like the mutated queen that grew so large it became stuck inside the Onager itself. According to Eldon, the creature would be a prisoner of its own flesh. And I think it's important to note that in this series, even the xenomorphs that come into contact with the Black Ooze mutate to horrible and tragic results. It would seem that by Eldon's own explanation, that the original Deacon, either by its creation using the goo or exposure to it after its birth, was affected by the Black Cat's leading to the formation of this mountain-shaped giant alien. But their chief enemy was Keenan now trapped inside the Deacon Mountain, so Eldon would allow himself to join, or more likely get absorbed by the Deacon, giving him a brief moment to control it enough to allow for an opening for the people to escape. So yeah, in the comics, the Deacon is a mountain, a case of the black substance continuing to mutate out of control. Now I give the writers at Dark Horse props for going outside of the box here and taking a risk with the Mountain Deacon, but in the end I think the idea just doesn't work for me. But perhaps it was the only way to sneak a Deacon back into the comic after the Fox decision, as they weren't even able to use the name Deacon in the series. Still, I can't help but laugh when thinking about it, and I would have been happier if they removed the Deacon altogether if they couldn't get Fox to allow its inclusion. Luckily for us, at the end of the comic series, the writers would explain their original intentions with the Deacon.
Hardcore team deathmatch. Green light. Go, go, go.
Damn! Ah! Fuck, y'all. I feel like I was in the movie right there. Y'all gotta get her skin. That shit was high, yo. Come on, come on, come on. Man, give me a fucking headshot. Ah! What the fuck? Damn, man. Damn, yo. Ah, that's bullshit. Damn, yo.
Control. Clock's ticking, Black Ops. Close this shit down. Damn it, we've lost the lead. Eyes on hostile concussion.
Shit.
Come on, you're losing this fight. I don't believe in bad luck, just bad aim.
Get there.
Our ass is handed to us. All survivors, retreat. Long may I rain vengeance and destruction.
Hardcore kill order. Keep your team's HVT alive and hunt the enemy down. We got the lead. Now hold it. HVT is taking fire. Keep the package safe.
Damn.
We took out their HVT. Nice.
Damn.
We're pulling ahead. HVT under fire. Repeat, HVT under fire. You've fallen behind. Hostile HVT located. Friendly HVT on site. Keep them safe. Enemy HVT is down. Enemy HVT on site. Take them out. HVT is taking fire. Keep the package safe. We took out their HVT. They got our HVT. Hostile HVT located. Come on, you're losing this fight. You're our HVT. Stay alert. Enemy HVT on site. Take them out. Hostile HVT located. Enemy HVT is down. Enemy HVT on site. Take them out.
Bro, how you ran past me, man?
This shit ain't working. We've lost the advantage. Protect
Fucker.
our HVT. We've taken control. We took out their HVT. Hostile HVT located. HVT under fire. Repeat, HVT under fire. Enemy HVT is down. Our HVT has been eliminated. Alright, eyes up. You're the HVT. Enemy HVT on site. Take them out. We took out their HVT. Friendly HVT on site. Keep them safe. HVT is taking fire. Keep the package safe. Hostile HVT located. Damn it, we've lost the lead. They got our HVT. Protect our HVT. HVT under fire. Repeat, HVT under fire. Our HVT has been eliminated. Enemy HVT is down. Friendly HVT on site. Keep them safe. HVT is taking fire. Keep the package safe. Enemy HVT on site. Take them out. They got our HVT. Protect our HVT. We took out their HVT. Hostile HVT located.
Man, no, fucking freaking bull. Freaking bull.
Down.
Ah, it's a punch.
Enemy HVT on site.
Oh,
Take
this
them
is
out.
fucking fun. Chilling, man.
Our HVT has been eliminated.
Chilling all day.
You're our HVT. Stay alert.
Stay alert, stay alert, stay alert. Stay alert. Nice shot.
We took out their HVT. Hostile HVT located. Enemy HVT is down. Enemy HVT on site. Take them out. Friendly HVT on site. Keep them safe. HVT under fire. Repeat, HVT under fire. You gonna let a bunch of company assholes beat you? Fight back, damn it! They got our HVT. We took out their HVT. Alright, eyes up. You're the HVT. Damn it, they must have hacked our comms. Go dark. We'll pick you up later. Now pack it up.
Sorry, mate. Work is true. Five enemies sighted.
on my fucking face. Folk style. So they from New York. This has to be playing some type of back to English. You right. On the jacket.
Hardcore team deathmatch. Neutralize all threats.
So you got right in front of me, yo. Fucking teammate, yo. Damn! Damn! Fucking hit him, bro. Fucking looking at him. What? Come on! Huh?
Thought you were hot shit, huh?
That was stupid. Ah, man. Ah. Like this gun is hot. What the fuck? Damn!
This shit ain't working. We've lost the advantage.
Oh man, fucking move away.
Sit down, buddy.
Be darned. Guy's not on our side. Finish him.
Shit come through, this shit takes everybody out. Damn! Ah!
Damn it, we lost the lead. Nice. We're pulling ahead. Mediocrity's not my side. Head for extract. We'll talk about this later.
Start pulling your weight.
Just fucking got stuck, yo.